there's a lot of problems when it comes to this type of testing. A lot of the time it's based on like a human logic where we're scaling to like 100K with big caps, basically profitable on the first order, which they never were before. The best thing about it is that you can essentially predict your CPAs. We focus on targets to begin with. If they're not realistic, we increase the target a little bit. But in the long run, we want to have a specific CPA in mind. It's really good for my clients to say, like, we're not going to spend your money if it doesn't generate return. So
hey guys, just want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, not just Adam, but Ringba, of course. If you haven't already, grab your copy of the paper called Revolution, which you can find on Amazon now. All right, guys, I've got a special guest here, Will Jago from Nurturely, who I actually found watching YouTube myself when I was searching for additional strategies and ideas around making big caps more scalable. This guy's an absolute expert. I've devoured his content, and I'm really impressed with what he's doing, and he's very transparent in his videos too, which we'll link back to underneath this video. So make sure to check out his channel and subscribe. But Will, thank you for joining me, man.
yeah, thank you. That was a lovely intro, to be honest. I wish I got that every day. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I'm always like to be hyped up.
Yeah, let's go. And you're out of the UK, right?
Yes, England, sunny England, based in Newcastle.
Beautiful.
Yeah, staying inside in there basically. Yeah.
Oh man, how'd you get started in the digital marketing space?
Around about 10 years ago. I used to live in Australia, and I kind of got that idea. I wanted to make something of my own, so came back and worked in a few agency settings doing digital marketing, really quite beginner level, and just resided, really just started out as a little bit more of the data side, and then got like a few promotions in that respect. And John is probably maybe something similar to you, but getting that bug and then starting something for yourself. So I've had my own agency, Nurturely, for around about 5 years now. I would say it's mainly like meta ads, but we do a lot of creative strategy and everything in between, basically. So that's kind of like the really footnotes side of the background of myself, basically.
And you go ahead and name drop. You've had some big brands under your belt too.
Yeah, 100%. So past and present, in different client settings and different agencies, but worked with like BMW, German Doner Kebab, which are huge in England, Harley Davidson, Porsche. So I've been working on some really good commercial side clients, which have their pros and cons.
Is that kind of weird to like talk to the person at McDonald's and be like, hey, I need you to share the McDonald's fan page with my business mission?
Yeah. Super red tape, as you can imagine. There's not a lot of creative freedom when they've got millions behind them.
Spend the money, right?
Yeah. Here's the money, spend it. Yeah.
Cool, man. So a lot of I'd say half your content's around, like, obviously you've got a whole like process and flow and creative strategy, which we'll share as well. And we'll probably hit on a lot of the questions in this long question list we have. But what led you to bid caps as your solution to a problem, or just something that you found and it worked for you?
That's a really good question. So I'm probably in the same mind frame as you, John. Like, there's obviously like a massive limitations with traditional ads. Just for this video, my definition of traditional ads is like lowest cost. So there's a lot of problems when it comes to this type of testing. A lot of the time it's based on like a human logic, and I'm going to say like even my media buying logic is flawed at times. You're emotional. You let things run maybe because your day-to-day changes. And I was just looking for something a little bit more structured. So this is why I kind of started looking at big caps. I think I probably devoured some information like yourself. So it's been around about a year now. So I've had a lot of testing with cost caps, big caps, in conjunction with lowest cost. And what I really liked about it is just the structure. And if done correctly, it takes a lot of the time of media buying and making decisions yourself. And just the best thing about it is that you can essentially predict your CPA. So it's really good for my clients to say, like, we're not going to spend your money if it doesn't generate return. So there's a lot of plus sides, really. It's just, it really helped with my retention for my clients as well. It's really good to kind of have a structure that's almost like a safety net. That's what I kind of say. I've got really bad analogies you might pick up on, but yeah, it's kind of like a safety net, and that's what kind of drew me to it. So seeing some people in my network talk about it and just rolling it out for a few of my clients and just directly seeing some of the other client results, and it just seemed to work. And I've really vouched for it over the last 6 months or so, up until the point where most of my campaigns have migrated to this structure, basically. Yeah.
What's like a big success story you've had with internally with a client where, let's say, they were doing a high volume of spends on lowest cost, getting good returns, and what were you able to provide to them by implementing big caps for their scaling?
Yeah. So this happens. Well, there's a specific example with a brand that we work with called Functional Patterns. They're probably doing about 6 million annual right now. And they always had the problem of this campaigns running really inflated budgets. They had a pretty easy sign up for budgets, but when I kind of came into it, it was very unorganized. I think the previous media buyers were just running a lot of different campaigns and just hoping things stick, basically. They were actually running traffic campaigns, which is a massive no-go.
No.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. So like they were spending like 2K a day, and like 1,000 of it was traffic. So that was the big alarm bell going on off in my mind. So it was actually a really, really good thing to come in and just really tighten up that budget to begin with. But they had healthy margins.
With traffic campaigns, they had healthy margins.
Not in that respect, but they had healthy margins. They were a product brand, and they've built up a really loyal following. They're quite disruptive in their market. So yeah, we were able to kind of turn off those traffic ads and then just really focus on setting up big caps. I started with cost caps as well, and we had a plethora of creatives that we were able to do to test. So I think from Facebook, they were generating like 7K with per month before that. And we scaled to like 100K in month 3, just with big caps and turning off cost control. Big caps and turning off the traffic ads, tightening that up. And we're up to the point where they're kind of just really crushing it with Facebook. And we're getting to a point where we know our target CPA, and it's just about like trying to feed that, basically. So yeah, that's a really, really, really satisfying client that we work with up until today. So there's plenty more. We worked with brands called Earth Secret, supplement brand, where we're scaling to like 100K with big caps. They're basically profitable on the first order, which they never were before.
Wow.
And that's just a massive reason for that. Is everyone thinks about ROAS and the way to profit is just to get more return, but at the same time, it's all about not losing money. So we just bridged that gap, basically, and just tightened it up, got into their ad account, looked at the campaigns that were just overspending, turned them off, and just put them into big caps. And yeah, we've done this for even larger brands, like a brand called Carly, spending around about 15K per day with. They've got a massive reach in the whole of Europe. So it wasn't just a simple way of doing that, but we had a really good workflow with creative where we can just test a ton of creative. I mean a ton, I mean hundreds of creatives per month. And with a fixed CPA, we were able to scale to that, and the scaling to like 500K per month just with Facebook ads. Yeah.
Nice. Heck yeah. So you got from, oh wow. Yeah, that's solid, man. That's really cool. So let's jump into some of these questions about how we do this.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's start with the first one. Let's say you have a brand new offer, something that you can probably guess. Let's take insurance, like auto insurance.
Yeah.
You know, let's say you're in the capacity of an affiliate, you get paid $10 a lead. Obviously, you don't want to spend $12 to get a conversion, right? Because you don't make money.
Yeah.
If we're talking about initial creative testing, structure, and then choosing the right bid for that, what would you do?
So with a new offer, there is caveats that I know I hate to say all this, but you do need to give yourself a little bit more room for efficiency. You need to probably open the bid up from what your target wants to be, probably around 20 to 30%, because we've got no historical data.
Right.
It's a little bit hard for Facebook to kind of straight away run it. So this is what we would do to begin with. We'd initially test a little bit higher. What I decide is like our target CPA is just what we the area we're profitable in. So you might have struck up a deal where you're getting paid per purchase or per lead or whatever. Don't go too far off from that. Be very, very disciplined in your target and just give Facebook a little bit more room. So yeah, 20 to 30% above. How I initially test creatives, you can still test with creatives. It's a big, massive misconception that big caps are only for scaling, or you need to have lowest cost and you need to have spend to make decisions. You just run it as a big cap. You can basically test as many creatives as possible if you have a very strict CPA. It's not like lowest cost where you might have a massive bank of creatives and you test a batch out a few times. It's all about testing as many as possible to begin with. And yeah, if it's a new offer, give it Facebook a little bit of room above your CPA. But if it doesn't spend, don't just keep rising the CPA. This is what I see a lot of the time, where people like double or triple their CPA target with bids. And you might as well just not be running big caps. It's about having that discipline, basically. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yes. And when you say 20, 30% above the CPA, is that above like the break even, like the payout, or is that above where you would actually want to be? Like, let's say the payout's 10 per conversion. Realistically, you think it's fair to let's say you have a 20% margin, it costs you $8 to generate a lead. Would you set
Your
it 20,
target.
30% above that? Yeah. Would you
Yeah.
set it 20, 30% above that, or above the actual like break even payout?
No, so your target, again, you can go up to break even, but that's not why we're in it, basically. I would have like a specific target in mind. So you might want a certain amount of margin. So we focus on targets to begin with. If they're not realistic, we increase the target a little bit. But yeah, in the long run, we want to have a specific CPA in mind, and then we want to drill down the creatives to get that, basically. So always focus on your targets. You'll be humbled a little bit if they're way too adventurous, but yeah, the aim of the game is to have like a certain amount of CPA that you're wanting to reach, and then go from there. But yeah, as you said, if it's above break even, that's not what we're trying to optimize for.
Now, for your structure of how you do this creative testing, I've seen your flow charts and your maps. What maybe just explain to the audience so they get a general idea of how you do your initial creative testing let's keep it to the example of a new offer.
Yeah, so one campaign per offer. If we got loads of different offers, it doesn't work. So what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to have each ad set as its own test. So we're going to have one campaign with the first ad set. We're going to have a maximum of 5 ads per ad set. We're going to tie that in with the CPA that we're wanting to hit. As I said before, in this example, it's a new offer. So we're going to go 20 to 30% above the CPA target. And what the aim of the goal is we're just trying to find ads that spend the full daily budget. So I really recommend doing ABO to begin with. So ABO is just ad set budget optimization. And we're going to dial in the budget at the ad set level. So if we have, for example, what you said before, the CPA is $10, I would have the budget to be 10 times that. So one ad set would be $100. And yeah, as I said before, find ads that spend the full daily budget or lower. That's kind of like the aim of every ad set. So what we're going to do is we're going to just create more and more ad sets every single day, and that's the way that we're going to do it. The goal is to find the ads that spend the full daily budget, and yeah, we're going to basically test out loads of different creatives to begin with. We're going to do loads of little different variations, so we can find an image, we can try new text overlay, we could try new hooks in our videos, we can try new headlines, avatars, basically just loads of different optimizations every single day. We're just going to expand that campaign out with loads of different ad sets, basically. And it's really important to not have too many ads in your ad level. It's really good to have 5 max, basically. So I've actually got like a Miro board that I'm very, very happy to share. You can see like the full realm of what it looks like. And yeah, that's kind of like the structure that we do. So if it's a winner, that means that the budget has spent all of the budget in the day under the target CPA. So what we're going to do after that is we're going to keep this rolling. We're going to make variations of this winner. So it might be a specific text overlay that's worked, and we can make small tweaks to that to keep it running, to keep it winning. And it's all about iterations. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yep. And with this, how do you make, since we're not split testing the big cap itself, we're sticking to our guns with this is what we believe is a fair and reasonable target CPA with a 20-30% bump.
Yeah.
How do you determine if the bid is actually too low versus the creatives just suck?
That's a really good question. And there's a few different things that we can think of that in that respect. I would have like a little bit of an eye test, and I think the main realm of that is that there's a lot of optimizations that you're going to do in a day that help you find that. So for example, if we've got a specific target CPA and just across the board, nothing is spending, we can go up to a level where we're just before break even to find out if it is actually just the CPA is an issue or if it's the creative. So that's a little bit of a less structured area. We want to just be finding out like a little bit about what is going on a day-to-day basis, just having a little bit of an optimization, doing it a little bit higher every single day will find you out that. So there isn't like a specific rule on that question that you've just said. It's very much go to the point where if everything isn't working, maybe just increase it a little bit more to a point where you're just before break even, I would say.
How many creatives would you put behind it if you had a high confidence, and obviously like you have a great eye for creative at this point with everything you've done and seen? How much volume of creative would you put behind the initial offer test before you decide and you're thinking, okay, it could be the bid, not the creatives?
Yes, I'd say
I guess it would also depend too on the trend you're seeing. Maybe you're seeing a trickle of spend. Maybe you're seeing 10% of the spend versus the full budget spend. I'm sure there's other variables too, but generally speaking.
So that's a really good question. If it's like it depends on like, I would probably give it probably 5 ad sets with 5 ads in. I've actually had this specific problem with one of the offers that I'm running for one of my affiliates. It's like across the board, it didn't get any impressions. So that gives me a lot of understanding that, right, okay, so we've tested about 30 different creatives. And I was even going to the point where we went up to the point where it's just completely at break even and nothing seemed to work. So it's a little bit of an eye test on that respect. It's there might be more than one thing that is causing it not to work. Even like with tracking and other aspects, there's a lot of just external factors that you need to look at. So I would probably say around about 5 ad sets with 5 ads in, basically.
Cool. And then at what rate do you make bid adjustments if that is the route you need to go to problem solve? Would it be every 24 hours? Would it be after 2 to 3 days? I think that's the hard part with big caps too. Like I personally learned big caps back in 2018, 2019. I don't know if you know a guy named Tim Bird. He's got some cool strategies. Yeah, but a lot of them had to do with like accelerated spending, when attribution was accurate and more up to date with Facebook. So you can basically manipulate the campaigns to spend on an accelerated basis with a super low bid to squeeze traffic. But that just doesn't work for, at least not for me anymore, because there's such a gap in attribution. Even with a tracking software, you're running blind, and I typically go negative. So I'm trying to shift my thinking to like what you're saying here, where you're making these adjustments and you're basically trusting the bid to do the work for you. So how often would you, if you believe you were at the point where you had to make a bid adjustment, at what speed would you make those adjustments, and then how much time would you give it?
Yeah, so I normally give it 24 hours in a 10% increment. So it gives us enough time, and especially like it might be an emotional thing, but 24 hours is a good enough time to understand if we're going to get incremental spend, especially with starting out with an offer when we're not kind of scaling. So yeah, I would say that is a good enough time, basically. And just as you said, like it goes up and down. Like if we're seeing budget efficiency and you want to reduce that CPA, it goes the same. So 24 hours with a 10% window.
When you go to bigger budget scaling, you don't typically see 100% of the budget spend though, correct? It's more of like a consistent 20 or 30% of a large budget will actually spend on a regular basis.
Well, it's very variable. Like there could be days where it's a lot less, but I mean, I have like going back to that functional patterns client, I've got campaigns where I know if I increase the budget, I'm going to get the same CPA. It's one of the best campaigns that we've got. But yeah, on a normal basis, and going back to the initial offer, you're probably not going to get the full spend. So you need to kind of plan with big caps the actual daily spend that you put on and the expected delivery. So if you probably, for example, if you got like $1,000 per day campaign, you might actually kind of forecast in your mind, right? Okay, this is only going to probably spend 400. But yeah, like if you're getting a really high campaign in terms of budget and you're getting all that budget behind it, Facebook's basically obviously just telling me, just give me more of this. And this is when you can kind of increase the spend. And yeah, you get some like specific campaigns where it's just like amazing, where you get like the same CPA and you just like keep adding more budget and it keeps the same. That's like the sweet spot with big caps. And yeah, that's what you aim to achieve basically.
So jumping back into our questions here, what's the trend before I go to this next one? So we're talking about big budget scaling campaigns, typically some ratio or percentage of the actual budget will spend once you've dialed in creative and then target CPA or big cap. When you're doing your creative testing, do you typically see full spend though? Or is that just on the like more of like an inflated 20-30% above where you want to be? You see the full spend?
So it's not guaranteed to full spend, not at all. Even when you're testing, it might not spend the full structure. We need to be very clear when we're talking about testing. The budgets are still inflated anyway. So we always start off campaigns. It's never like we only start with $20 a day. Like it's not so much different to our scaling campaigns. So for example, if we have a $50 CPA we want to hit, like I am not averse about running it 10 or 20 times, even in a testing structure. It's a little bit difficult to kind of comprehend. It's like the way we scale is within that campaign that we ran straight away. It's not so much migrating from testing to scaling as much, although you can do that. You can do some beast campaigns, but even the testing campaigns to begin with have a good amount of spend anyway.
Yeah. So you essentially just scale those up. You scale the winners up.
Yeah. So yeah, the amazing thing is like if we do a initial campaign and it's already inflated budget, we can get winners straight away. Like the way we can do that is because it's a safety net. It's essentially we're basically telling Facebook straight away, just scale straight away. If you can find CPAs below what I'm telling you to, just do it straight away. It's not really about specific. It's not like lowest cost where we start off small and then incrementally increase. It's leveraging the downside protection of bad ads not spending means we can inflate the budget, if that makes sense.
For let's say you have a client or a campaign or product offer that you're seeing good scale. Maybe you're spending like at least a couple $1,000 a day on. The CPA is pretty consistent, all lowest cost, and then you implement big caps. Do you find it's more of a stabilizer in the CPA, or do you, let's say lowest cost is consistently $30 cost per purchase, cost per lead? Do you see big caps even consistently hit you with a $20 cost per lead or cost per acquisition for the same offer? Or is it just going to stabilize where you see lowest cost averaging?
I think it's very client per client, and that unfortunately, I can't really give like a blanket answer. And basically, it can very deviate between clients. Some straight away big caps are lower than the lowest cost. Some might take time. There is like a lot of conjecture about big caps and lowest cost can't coexist in the same ad account. I've yet to see that.
Yeah.
So I don't like to make assumptions based on like hearsay, because you always hear like on Twitter and YouTube or whatever, someone has like a personal anecdote about something that happened in their ad account, and then people are like, right, that's what happens. This is it. So yeah, it's very much client per client basically, and it's not really like a set framework of does this happen or does this not.
What do you do when a client or even an offer you're running yourself, you see a consistent $30 CPA, you're happy with that, lowest cost, you're starting to scale, but you also want to supplement it with big caps or even move over to big caps. You implement the big caps, you do a ton of testing, you see pretty good similar CPA, but let's say you run an issue where it's not spending at the rate you want to. Would you choose to leave? And the goal is to get volume, right? Would you leave both running, or would you raise the bid, or how would you problem solve this scenario?
Yeah, that's a good point. So if lowest costs working super well, I'm very bullish on keeping what was working, and I think these strategies can coincide together. I think they have their own issues, but if, for example, the goal is to get volume and big caps don't seem to work, don't hedge your bets. It's always about problem solving and finding out what is working. And yeah, in this scenario, lowest costs seem to be getting good CPAs. Focus on that. It's not like a one size fits all strategy. And again, like unfortunately, like a lot of media buyers and freelancers always tell you this is right, this is gospel. There's many use cases for lowest cost. I'm not one of those people that kind of only focus on
not a purist.
yeah. So like I'm not I'm not that type of, like, you can see a lot of personal brands where they're like super into it, but yeah, that scenario, go with the winning strategy, and if that's lowest cost, it is.
Have you seen scenarios where you're working with like higher ticket offers or like high ticket coaching offers where they can afford maybe to pay 200, $300 a lead because it backs out to like a 5K sale.
With big cap, do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, like in implementing big caps and something like that, because where the CPL, the cost per lead could vary so much, right? Like one day if conversion rate drops, it could jump on lowest cost from $200 a lead to $300 a lead, which is still okay for the client for the offer, right? But
Yeah.
how would you manage like a big cap strategy with like a bigger range like that? Would you just let it spend the days it spends, and then maybe the days where the auction in theory goes up, the bids go up, then you don't have spend? Would that be the reality of it, or?
Yeah, I mean that is the reality. It's basically you give it an input of a specific cost per book call, and it's going to give you an output. It's really interesting that you say that, because it all comes down to knowing your back end metrics. We need to kind of understand the financials, like what's the specific closing rate, how many people show up. There's loads of metrics that make to find out what the profitable cost per book call is. And we'll just deviate a little bit based on the metrics. But yeah, there's the old saying, like the more you pay for a acquisition, the more you win, basically. So I've worked really well actually with my own business. We get some like really good cost per book calls with some high ticket clients, basically. And what we do is we have like a bit of an introductory offer, where we give certain value out, and yeah, we close on the back end, and we've been getting like $30 book calls. So that's we can have another
Nice.
conversation about that.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Okay.
But yeah, sorry,
Another.
I didn't answer your question.
No,
Yeah,
go ahead.
big caps works really well. It's not just D2C, it can work in like high tickets, leads, and yeah, D2C, etc. Yeah.
Cool. So, question from someone in my Skool community. Let's say a creative pops off in your testing. How are you transitioning into scaling? And what are you doing to pump as much volume to that creative as possible? I think you already answered this. You're basically you could increase the budget of the winning creative testing campaign by 5xing or 10xing, it sounds like is the way to scale it. Anything different you would say there, or did you feel like you covered that question already?
Yeah, we already have an inflated budget, so it's gonna scale. But the best way to do it is we make more iterations of that. So there might be like for example, this might be the video. The way we can infinitely try and scale that is just stitch some more hooks on. It could be a new body copy. So we scale with making more iterations of that winner. And if we have like, for example, 40 different variations of that absolute creative that is popping, and we imply that, and we put them at large spends, you can always lead your imagination up to the point where it's gonna be being on steroids, basically. If we have like 40 winners running and they're all at big budgets, that's kind of like how you scale. But yeah, there is many use cases of migrating that winner, having in like a CBO campaign with the post IDs, and having maybe like 5 or 6 top winners. That's how you scale as well. So yeah, there's a few different ways.
So when you're doing your initial creative testing on like a smaller budget, which is still a big but inflated budget with a big cap, and let's say it spends 20% of the budget, you're happy with it, you found your winners. When you 10x the budget or 50x, whatever you do to scale it, do you typically see the same kind of ratio spend? Or when you jump the budget, does it sometimes drop to 10% of the actual spend?
So unfortunately not. To be honest, like if we're at like 1,000 a day and it's spending 20%, and we move it to 10,000, like we're still basically, Facebook's giving us, it's not going to incrementally go up 10 times, for example. This is why you need to kind of focus not on the budget element in this aspect. I think the way we do that is we run new ad sets. It's not a case of like being able to increase the budget and it's going to spend more. That's why the budget's already inflated, because we don't really tend to change the budget once we've done an ad set. We just make more ad sets. It's it's very different to lowest cost. It's a different way of thinking. It's more about having as many ad sets as possible instead of like vertically scaling. It's that's probably the downside of bid caps, but it's also a really clear way of it
Controlling your
basically,
downside.
yeah, it
Yeah.
removes the media buying logic. You basically give it one input, you give a budget, and it gives 20% out. That 20% budget a day will vary. It'll fluctuate because there's less demand maybe on a Thursday morning, and then Saturday that spend goes up to 60%. So it's not like lowest cost. It fluctuates basically, and we just scale by making more ad sets basically. Yeah.
Do you? It's a question I was thinking. Let me come back to that question.
No worries.
How do you problem solve? I know we've touched on this already. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add here. How do you problem solve a campaign that's spent with big cap, but then stop spending? It sounds like you just need to ride the wave of the auction, which can fluctuate, and the demand and inventory, which is going to fluctuate weekday to weekday, right?
Yeah, demand fluctuates. People are online different at different times. If it's flatlining and it was working really well, I've actually got that problem myself with some of my ads. Just make variations of what was working. Don't get too hung up on it not spending. Like, it not spending is a feature, not a bug. I used to get really annoyed. I'm like, why is it not spending? But that is the design. It's just, yeah, as you said, like it stops the bad ads. So yeah, just be very, very logical, no emotion. Just try and make variations. And the good side of bid cap is a lot of the media buying logic, like turning things off, optimizing, having to make a decision on like CPAs and when to turn off ads. That goes a lot. But the negative side of big caps is that you have to create a lot more creatives for it to work. So it's like you shift your areas of focus on more offer testing, creative testing, headline testing, where you would be a lot more in the ad account with lowest cost. Does that make sense?
Sounds lovely. Sounds lovely, man.
Yeah, it's like kind of like the high leverage stuff you work on more. You let Facebook do the media buying logic.
Question that I forgot a second ago. When let's say you jump a budget to 50K a day, you know it's not going to spend that. Still, for peace of mind, do you ever set a ad set daily spend limit or a campaign daily spend?
Yes. You've probably seen some of I remember one on Valentine's Day because it's a pretty easy date to remember. Yeah, I was doing some affiliate stuff on Square Dance, and it just completely overspent. So it's, yeah, you make a really good point there. Have spending limits in the process. If you want to go even further, you can set up rules where maybe if like CPA is drastically increased and it's like way above the account, and you can just turn that off based on rules. I'm not going to promote myself as being a massive advanced person at rules, but have that like, yeah, have an even further safety net. Spending limits like save lives. You see on Twitter when there's been like an outage with Facebook, and it's not worked as what people thought it was going to be, big cap. So yeah, just leverage, hedge your bets, and have those limits on. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Do you ever use accelerated spending?
This is a little bit like Tim Bird, but no, I don't anymore. It's something that I can't really confidently say that I've ever used correctly. It used to be the shotgun method, I think, that promoted. I think you said that before, like 2018. No, I haven't, unfortunately. I would love to speak to anyone that has got that experience.
What are some of the most common problems you see people run into with big caps?
So common problems are spending above CPA. this is really annoying because you're basically saying, right, you shouldn't spend if this happened. I came across that problem a lot when I was running specific campaigns in CBO. So if I had like, for example, 10 different ad sets in a CBO with big cap, I saw that the CPA was above what I wanted it to be. So that's quite an annoying thing that you might see sometimes. That's the reason that I migrated from cost cap actually, because the difference between cost cap and big cap is that cost cap plays out on an average and it tries to get like a CPA at that level on average. So that goes up.
Yeah.
Big cap's meant to be more strict. So when you're seeing it rise above, it makes you go crazy. So that's one of the things that I normally see. If you're wanting volume, it really is sometimes annoying when you're just wanting it to spend. But I keep reminding myself it's a feature. So a problem that I've got, I'm running a new offer for an affiliate through Square Dance before, and nothing spending. But the good side of that is that I probably spent a few. Sorry, I probably saved a few $1,000 finding out. Yeah, so it could be a tracking issue. I'm actually speaking to a developer. Like I might not have set that up, but the beauty of it is it's not spent, but it's not spend my money in the process. But to go back to your point, CPAs rising are really annoying because if it's above your CPA that you've answered for, it sometimes happens. And I think sometimes when Facebook has outages or releases new features, sometimes the ads manager does deviate a little bit. So like you said before, which you made a really good point, John, of having those spending limits and things in way when Facebook's not playing ball, basically.
Yeah. How do you, any specific advice for like, so I'm obviously in like the affiliate lead gen pay per call space. A lot of our campaigns have to run around call center hours in the US. So 9 to 5, typically, more or less. Have you had campaigns with big caps where you've had to manage not just the bid and pumping creative, but also running them on a schedule?
That's a really good point, and it's very tailored to what that is. It's fine to have the ad spend in those certain hours. I don't think it's a big cap issue. That's just very much a blanket for all Facebook ads. So yeah, big cap does work with certain limits. So for example, the hours. So I don't think that's an issue at all.
So just turning on and off the campaigns is the simple solution, or would you run them like a lifetime with a schedule on the back of the ad set?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I would probably set up rules. So if you got like reveal bot or just use Facebook native rules, you can basically say turn ads off at 5 p.m., turn ads on at 9 a.m. or whenever. That's the best way and the automated way to do it.
Cool. Any other last tips around big caps? Like I shared with you before, we got a pretty wide audience, a lot of beginners, but also a lot of big spender affiliates, probably guys and gals spending 5-6 figures a day on lead gen offers, pay-per-call offers, e-com offers, mainly lowest cost. Like I talk to these guys, this is what most of them do. What are some pieces of advice you have for these people, or even someone with like an e-com brand that wants to see a more stable cost per result?
Yeah, don't be super shiny object. I think one of the things that you need to do is you need to understand your true source of revenue. If you've got lowest costs that are working pretty well, but you've kind of been diverged to focus on big cap and cost cap, appreciate that it might not work straight away. So what I would do is I err on the side of caution, probably set up like a 10% of your budget on big caps to begin with, and then increase the amount of priority you give to big caps once you've seen prior results. I think the worst thing that you can do is just turn off everything to focus on this strategy. Be patient. Understand with big caps, there's a little bit more or different media buying logic. So understand that it might take a little bit of time to adjust your thinking. For example, migrating from testing to scaling is a lot different. How you add your budget on is a lot different. So yeah, just treat it as a different logic in your mind. But at the same time, understanding that when you're running big caps and cost caps, you're not gonna see a downside in your budget testing this. So it's really good to coincide. It's not going to cost a lot of money. It's only going to cost you time of setting it up. Unfortunately, if it doesn't work, you're not left with a massive bill. So yeah, this is why it's really good to coincide. And once you're seeing some good figures and you're seeing good volume, this is when you kind of migrate a bit more of your strategy.
Cool. All right, my man. How can people connect with you more, learn more about your agency, or get support from you directly?
Yeah, 100%. So I've got an agency called Nurturely. So kind of we're available if you want to have me look at your account, maybe some diagnose some bottlenecks. I'm very, very happy to for you to reach out. I've got a Skool community. I can send the link. So I'm one-to-one access with my business partner and brother. And yeah, we'll just take it from there. There's a ton of content and Miro boards and loads of things that I would be happy to give you. So yeah, reach out to me via there.
My man, thank you for joining me. Any last words of advice or anything for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, this is an amazing space. Affiliate networking is something that I'm reaching into. So yeah, just to reiterate what I've said, keep it patient, run a small amount of budget to begin with, and then yeah, just scale to the moon.
Cool. All right, brother. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, John. Thanks. Bye bye.